Today we're going to take a look at the South Africans that have been playing in the Major League Cricket. Are they impressing? Are they not? Who's performing? Who's not performing? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Ultimately, I haven't really been heavily invested into this tournament with regards to watching every single game, given the times that the games are being played as well. And generally, it's just another T20 competition that we have to keep an eye on and support. But I have been keeping an eye, close eye on some of the South Africans and seeing who's the ones that are performing and the ones that are not. So before we get going, before we get started, there's a couple of things I'd like you guys to please do. First and foremost, please subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to also smash that like button, comment, and share. It's very important that you do so. And download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every single month. The link is right now on the screen. I'm going to put it up for you guys and in the description. This latest issue, we speak about the season review. We give some insight into that and talking to a couple of players and coaches from the last season to get some insight into what they've been doing with regards to the season and what they're going to be doing and thinking about going into the next season. There are some interesting points made there, particularly from the winners of the trophies this season. We had to talk to obviously the player teams that were successful in Division One, and we gave some insight into that as well. So we're going to be we give a total summary on all of that basically in this particular magazine issue. We are working on the next issue as we speak. We're busy trying to put that together. The articles are coming in at the moment, and I'm editing as they come in. So please download the latest issue right now so that you can get a notification when we go live with the next one. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to discussing this with you guys. Very good evening. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid Mohideen, and this is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, today we will be speaking about the Major League Cricket, and we'll be looking at some of the South Africans that performed so far in this particular tournament. So, where do we start? Another T20 competition, another tournament, another thing for us to look at, and another thing for us to support. It's important that you guys do support the South Africans when they're playing in their leagues, but it's also quite sad that have so many available that it's kind of, as we can see, it's affecting other formats of cricket in general. Um, 2 seconds, guys. I just need to do something quickly, which I completely didn't forgot to do this afternoon. Um, so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be obviously looking through every single individual player that has performed and see which ones are standing out and which ones are performing so far. And then I'm going to have a look at um, kind of the bowlers as well as the batters, of course. And then what sort of insight that will give us into obviously the tournament as a whole and the standard of the tournament as a whole. I mean, I've seen some weird scores, of course, as you can see, as you'll see now when I bring up the scorecards. There are some weird matches that's been taking place where one team will, for instance, will score a hell of a lot of runs, and then the next guy will come along, and the next team will come along and be bowled out, for example, for 50 or something. So there has been inconsistencies within matches when it comes to the different teams and players. I mean, with regard to the quality of the tournament, it hasn't necessarily been like all close games, etc. So it is something that we can have a look at with regards to that. So I'm going to bring up some of the scorecards that I've collected for the show. Obviously, I tried to do some prepping before the show to get some insight so that I know kind of who we're going to be talking about in general, before I bring it to you guys, so that you guys don't have to do the research. Because ultimately, I want to try to curate this content for you guys so that you don't have to really go come in here and like do it yourself. So I'll bring it to you. For example, that's the way I'm going to go. So as a whole, there have been a couple of performances by South Africans with a bat that have really stood out, and I'm just going to bring up the performances in this tournament so far, the high scores in this tournament so far, and what has taken place. The one consistency that I have seen is most, or I think all, if I'm not mistaken, all of the performances that I'm going to mention now, they were in a winning cause for their team. So the one thing that has stood out for me from a South African point of view is every South African performance, or majority of the South African performances this season so far, it has come at a winning cause for their sides. So I'm bringing this up for you. As you can see, Riley Rousseau, 78, not out in this particular match. It's a match that I want to highlight and then just give you guys a quick summary of what took place. Riley Rousseau was the player of the match in this match, and Click Info's MVP as well, as you can see here. And it was in a winning cause for his side. Um, they put the Seattle Orcas into bat, and did they? Let me just double check that. Um, yes, and they scored 170 for six. Now, Handy Klassen was playing in this game and Quentin de Kock, but they never really did anything with the bat. And with regard to the ball, it was only really a South African, you could say, Shadley van Skalkwyk, that performed that bowled in that match. But then the Los Angeles Knight Riders went on to score 175 for 8, and it was mainly a performance by Riley Rousseau, 78 of 38 balls and 3 4s and 7 6s at a strike rate of 205. He took his team over the line. Now, that's something that I've been wanting to see from Riley, and we know that Riley can offer that. Our other player in the match, of course, was Wayne Parnell, who took one for 35 in this particular match. But it's something that we want to see from our players. And a player like Riley Rousseau is getting that opportunity to be able to go there and take our team over the line. We've spoken about him performing in a lot of matches for the Proteas where we actually end up in a losing cause. Not every single match performance by him has been at a match-winning performance. So that was a brilliant performance from Riley in this particular match, and he helped his team to win. Then the next one I want to highlight is David Miller. So David Miller over here is on this list as well with a 61. Again, also in a winning cause for his team. The Texas Super Kings batted first, and they scored 181 for 6, with Miller being the player of the match. He was the one that um, helped them get to that total ultimately, with Devon Conway as well doing a great job. But it was David Miller that stood out with 61 of 42 balls, 4 6s and 2 4s at the strike rate of 145, and really pushed them to the total, helped them push towards the total of 181 for 6. As you can see over here, they were 151 for 5 when he lost his wicket on the last ball of the 18th over. So there was 2 overs left, and Dwayne Bravo was brilliant, of course, there with 2 6s and 16 for 6. Um, and also Mitchell Santner did pretty well with 21 of 14 balls, hitting 2 6s as well. So they got to a decent total, and then they defended that total. Now, from the bowler's perspective, Gerald Coetzee bowled really well in this match. He took 2 for 22 in 2 overs in this match, and he was quite pivotal in this too. And we can see another South African born, Rusty Theron, also getting 2 for 16 over there. Calvin Savage as well, 1 for 25. So they ended up bowling the opposition out for 112 and actually winning that match. So you can see the disparity over here: 181 for 6 in the one innings, and then 112 in the next. But then I'm going to highlight someone that is probably the top performer out of everyone so far, I would say, from a batter's perspective, and that is Heinrich Klaassen. Now, Heinrich scored two important he put in two good performances and two important performances for his team in winning causes, I would say. So the first one is this 53 of 31 balls, three fours, and um, four, four fours and three sixes at a strike rate of, I just lost my place now, at a strike rate of 170 .96, as you can see over here. And let's just go into the match to show you what actually happened. Um, Seattle Orcas, which is Heinrich's team, they batted first, scored 177 for four, and Heinrich was the player of the match in this match. They set 177 for four in their particular 20 overs. Um, and yeah, a very impressive performance from Heinrich Klaassen, obviously striking at 170.96. So he's continuing his white ball performances that we've seen in domestic cricket. We've seen it in the Proteas teams as well. He's been doing really, really well with the white ball for South Africa as well. And then when it comes to the bowlers, I mean, there wasn't anybody really that stood out from a South African point of view here. So Wayne Parnell did bowl in the match, but it was 0 for 40 in that match. But play of the match was Heinrich Klaassen, and it was a great performance from him to help his team win. And then he scored another one, another important score for his team. At least in my opinion, at least you can decide if you rate this type of performance. But in T20 games, I think performances like this is exactly what really stands out to me and shows me character. And Heinrich has really been showing character through in this tournament so far. Um, the opposition, Texas Super Kings, were bowled at 127, but the player of the match of a year, who is probably someone that I'm happy to see do this type of thing and have these type of performances. We'll get to him when we talk about the bowlers, but we still do need to mention someone like Heinrich Klaassen who helped chase down that total. As you can see over here, when Quinton de Kock lost his wicket, it was 88 for 2 in the 12.4 overs. So Heinrich Klaassen came in and scored 42 of 21 balls. He scored four fours and three sixes at a strike rate of 200, which was brilliant from him. He literally almost single-handedly took the team over the line. But Quinton de Kock was very important in this match as well. As you can see, him and Klaassen showed their class together and really put on an amazing performance. And Klaassen showed them over the line, even though he lost Quinny after he scored a 50. And that's another person on the list who scored 150 so far as well, and that's Quinton de Kock. And he's mentioned, and I'm on my list as well, but he's also in this match, so it's important to mention that as well. But the player of the match and probably one of the top bowlers so far is Wayne Parnell. He took 5 for 20 in this match, but we'll get back to that a little bit later. I mean, he was very important in bowling them out. 5 for 20, economy of 5. Fantastic performance from him in this particular match. So if you look at the overall batters in general, when it comes to the Major League Cricket, let's see where everybody ranks when it comes to most runs from a South African point of view. So you can see that Russell is dominating the league so far with 206 runs with 250s. But Riley Rousseau is sitting over here comfortably at number 6 position with 133 with 150. And Andy Klaassen is on this list at number 10 with 121, 150, and 53, and obviously also that important 42. The strike rate of 177. What's very interesting over here is to see that our South Africans are batting at quite a high strike rate. So 152 over here, we can see 177. We can see as well on this list is Andries Gous. Very interesting as well. From a Free State batter. I don't know if he is going to get a contract. I don't think he did get a contract in the Division 1 this season or not. And David Miller is sitting over here at rank 15. But Ultimately, it's Arne Klaassen and Riley Rousseau that's really been standing out as the top performances in this particular match. Then I want to go to the bowlers and just look over there and what's happening. Um, the bowling, I wouldn't say has been this uh, amazing in this tournament, but there has been quite a few great performances from a couple of people. Now, Wayne Parnell stands out from a South African point of view with 8 wickets. Um, and obviously, five of them coming in that one match that I just showed you guys, which was a brilliant performance. I mean, taking a fifer in T20 cricket is not an easy feat. So we need to get props for that because it doesn't happen every single day. You know, it's not something that happens often. You'll often see people take 4 or 3 wickets, but five is something that is not an ordinary achievement in T20 cricket. It's a very top performance, I would say, from a bowler. And then if you go down, Kagiso Rabada, in his 3 matches played, he's taken 6 wickets already. So 2 for 16 is his best PBI. Um, and then Marco Janssen is in 5 games has taken 6 with 2 for 29. So a lot of our bowlers are getting those 2 wickets in matches. Gerald Coetzee in 2 matches taken 4 wickets, 2 for 22 is his best. Um, so yeah, and then we've obviously got Andrik Nokia playing in here as well, but he hasn't really been in the wickets a lot of the time. He's played 5 matches and 2 wickets um, in total, with 1 for 24 being his best. So he has been quite expensive as well, but he's bowling extremely quickly. That's something to look out for because when we have a look at something that is interesting that I thought was interesting to mention is how these two Rauf and Harris Rauf and Anik Nokia are battling for that fastest deliveries in the tournament so far. I mean, Rauf has hit 150 already in this tournament, but Anik Nokia is not far behind on 149.2 and 148.7. Um, but as you can see, Harris Rauf is obviously dominating with regards to those deliveries, top to fastest deliveries. But ultimately, South Africans so far have been putting up their hands and showing what they are capable of in this tournament. I don't think they're in full swing right quite yet. They're still getting there. I think warming up, but at least we've had some players that have performed so far. Let's see what the comments have to say. The quality of the bowling is below average. Proteas who have failed in IPL are doing well in the MLC. They are national level players and are expected to perform well against poor quality bowlers, says Ashkay. And we do expect that. We do expect them to perform, but that's why I also want to see if they are. It's very important to check that. What is your take on the trades? Okay, let's talk about that quickly. Let me just share that article with you guys. We put it up on Cricket Fanatics today. So I'm just going to read that out. But before we get to that, we'll read that out a little bit later. Let's just first talk about the MLC. Klaassen will be the man to watch out for this World Cup and will also have a huge role to play if SA are to succeed. When Riley scores, his team hardly loses, says Elias. Klaassen is an interesting one because he's going to be. We obviously spoke to him at the CSA Awards, and he gave us some insight into his game and his mind and his season. And he had another great season this season, particularly in white ball cricket. And he's going to play a very important role in the World Cup. If he can strike like he's striking now in white ball cricket for South Africa, he's always going to be a key player for South Africa. So I'm not really worried about our top six ultimately. I think our top six is pretty settled. Um, we have backup and we have first choice players that can automatically do a great job in this World Cup. I think personally, but we need those guys to be big match players and perform in the ICC with the ICC pressure on them. They need to look past that. I hope Rob Walter finds a way to get them into a mental space that helps them to get over that hurdle. You know, they've struggled in ICC tournaments for a very long time, and we still haven't gotten an opportunity to really, kill that stigma that is against South Africa of ICC tournaments. So I think Henrik Klaassen has been building a reputation now for winning games for his teams, no matter where he's played so far when he's got an opportunity. Particularly in the SA20, we saw him do that for the Proteas. Now in the MLC, we're seeing him do the same thing. So he's getting into a habit of scoring good, decent, match changing performances that really put the team in a strong position or help them chase down totals. And that's something that we need from our top players. And with David Miller, the partnership over there in 5 and 6, and then you still have someone like Aiden Markram, and you have Rassi van der Dussen, who has an excellent ODI record. And then you still have Bavuma, who was one day player of the year for CSA, and then Quentin de Kock, who is an X Factor player. You always know, you don't never know what's going to come from Quentin. When he's in form, he's in form. So I'm hoping that he hits that form in going into this World Cup, and he keeps it throughout the tournament. It's somebody that we really, really need. He hasn't been the best performers in ICC cricket events in general, but we're gonna need him to step up this time around in this World Cup, of course. Um, I don't know what you are asking. It's off season at the moment, so I don't know what you're asking, Saif. But okay, let's go into the next news story of the day. This was brought to you by SA20, of course. So the trading has let the training begin, as I've headlined it. But John Smuts and Simon Harmer are the first players to be traded ahead of the season 2 of the Betway SA20 League, as teams look to finalize their squads ahead of the 31 July trading deadline. Smuts has moved from inaugural champions Sunrisers Eastern Cape to Durban Super Giants, with Harmer swapping Kingsmead for St George's Park. Makes sense because um, John is playing cricket at the moment for KZN. So for the Dolphins. So it makes sense for him to move there and just stay where he is, instead of like moving for a whole 2 months to another province. So it makes sense for him to play for the Durban Super Giants, seeing that is his provincial team this time around. Even though the Eastern Cape was his home for so many years, um, it's good to see that he's moved now, that he's gone and playing for the franchises that's home to the current franchise that he's playing for. All South African players were signed on multi year contracts at an inaugural auction last year, but the trading window allows teams to trade or retain players ahead of the 31 July deadline. Franchises can also buy out players, South African or overseas, still under contract, to open up a slot in their squad. Interesting. The player would then go back into the auction. Teams have been strategically working behind the scenes in order to finalize their purse, which has been increased to 39.1 million rand per team for the season 2, ahead of the second auction scheduled for late September. Smuts' initial auction fee was 2.3 million rand, will now be taken over by Durban Super Giants, while Sunrisers Eastern Cape will be responsible for Harmer's 200,000 rand. So that's interesting. Um, it almost seems like Sunrisers Eastern Cape got the better deal over here. The Sunrisers have effectively freed up 2.1 million rand of their purse. The big eating smarts was the Sunrisers' third highest run scorer in season 1, with 202 runs at an average of 28.85, which included 2 half centuries. Ospinner, Harmer, bowled only 6 overs for DSG due to Lance Klusener's team boasting plenty of spin options in the form of new captain Keshav Maharaj, the pre-signed Prinalin Subrayan, and Sri Lankan international Akila Dhananjaya. Very good bowler that. The Sunrisers have looked to bolster their spin department for season 2, with England left-arm spinner Liam Dawson already pre-signed along with Harmer. Dawson was one of the Sunrisers pre-signings that also included Aidan Markram, seam bowler Othniel Batman, and former ICC number 1 T20 batter David Malan. Yeah, so that's the update. So this is going to be interesting to see what trades are going to happen, etc., throughout this window now, as you could see. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over there. Tabo asking me, what do you think about South Africa's chances at the World Cup? I see us getting 4 wins at best. We will be lucky to get 5. We will be doing World Cup shows closer to the time where I can think about it a lot more in detail. And also once I got the whole squad, because it's pointless me saying things right now about the team if I don't know what the full squad's going to be, or I don't have an inkling or an idea of what the full squad's going to be. The series against Australia is going to really give me some insight into what Rob's thinking is. We're also interviewing him for the magazine, so we're going to get some insight from him with regards to that. So let's see what happens from that perspective when it comes to his team selection and his squad selection, because that will give me some insight into how we will do. Now, we're going to be playing against Australia very, very soon, and that's going to be a massive tour to show us how we've progressed with regards to white ball cricket and the white ball team. So I think that's going to that will help us a lot with regards to understanding how they're going to set up, because there's a lot of question marks still in the ODI team. I think, particularly in the number 7 role, who's going to take that position? Are we going to try and give someone that is a full-out bowler that can bowl all 10 overs a chance, and have a 7 and an 8 that can bowl and bat? Are we going to give it maybe to a batter that can bowl a couple of overs, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 3, maybe 2, and give Eden Markram more responsibility with the ball, let him bowl more overs, for example? Or are we going to bring up another or an outside all-rounder into the mix that can bowl and bat, or and can fill up that role as well? Like I said, bowl the full quota of overs. So there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of players that could be in the mix. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the squad selection. That's I think that will determine a lot of things. It will determine also our mentality going into this. We're going to see also how many spinners they're going to pick, because it does seem like Keshav Maharaj is recovering quite well at the moment. It doesn't seem. He did say in an article that I read that he is trying his best to get ready for the World Cup. So there is still a possibility. But I would like to see someone as backup to him. Someone get given an opportunity in the matches against Australia to see if they are capable of actually putting in a performance that we can be proud of, and that can really push like the likes of Keshav um, with regards to a position. George Linde is someone that a lot of other fans on this channel have been speaking about quite a bit as a potential third spinning option. But there are others that are also most likely available. Like there is a opportunity maybe for Tristan Stubbs to get more bowling time, so that he can maybe cover 3 or 4 overs. um, if he can learn how to do that, if he can maybe bowl 3 to 5 overs, even better. Um, it will put less pressure on someone like Aiden Markram, and will give us another option with the ball, so that we can spread out those bowlers a lot more and rotate them a lot more, and bowl our bowlers in bursts rather than full quotas or half quotas. Um, I mean, we've got a lot of we know that our all rounders with regards to that 7-8 position are Wayne Pernell and Sisanda Magala, and dependable on how he does. um, sorry, guys. And dependable on whether he'll be selected or not, Marco Janssen as well, which is another option, because um, I think a lot of people maybe sleep on his batting ability, Marco. I'm a big fan of his batting, and I think that he can do a job at 8. To bat him at 7 might be a little bit too premature at the moment, but I think that he can. improve his batting to a level that we can really say, you know what, future all rounder. We also mustn't forget that we might possibly also see a selection of George Gerald Coetzee, who's also showed on the SAA tour that he can bat too and hit the ball really hard. I mean, I met Gerald Coetzee at the Karamanjola week for the first time, and he was seen as an all rounder in that tournament, even though he bowled blitz, like he was bowling really quickly. And a lot of people were speaking about his bowling ability and how quick he bowls, but he also held his own with the bat. And it's something that I did think was going to be he was going to be molded into more of that number 8 type of player that will be able to also put in performances with the bat when we need him to. We've seen them take risks with him in matches. We've seen him um, get opportunities in with the bat and perform decently in those positions. So that's another potential player that is there um, as an extra option with a bat. But are we going to rely on him fully at the moment? I think why not pick him at 10? Why not pick him at 9? And then if he comes off with a bat, it's a bonus. So if you're going to play an extra player in the team, he might just go as a traveling reserve, or he might just be on the bench. But ultimately, if we do need that raw pace, if anything happens to one of the bowlers and we have that raw pace, it's always deadly. And these are really a truly um, good weapon to have. Tab was saying Temba is going to be released since they bought David Malan because Herman won't be dropped and Russington did well. Gerald Kutsia is likely to be traveling reserves, is Tabo. That you're talking about. That's what I just mentioned now with regards to that. Um, so yeah, I've covered a lot on this show today, and I've spoken about particularly T20 cricket and the SA20. We know we did a couple of shows of the SA20 um, that really put some light and put us in a situation where we were really sad. I think over the last week, we ended the show quite downtrodden, I would say, or a little bit under the, I wouldn't say under the weather, that's the wrong term I'm using, but we were quite sad about the situation that's currently happening with the SA20 and the test side. I'm hoping, obviously, to get someone on the show this week that will be able to give me some more insight into those decisions that have been made with regards to the SA20 and the Proteas playing there. Um, so, if it does get approved, I will let you guys know when the show is. Obviously, you'll see the thumbnail and I'll post it on social media so that you guys can see what has taken place. But these 220 leagues that are popping up everywhere, I mean, the fact that there's also ones in nations, um, there's ones in there's ones from nations that are not necessarily cricket nations that are big or that are starting their own leagues. We had one in Canada, and now in America, Abu Dhabi, they have a T10 league. Um, so we're seeing all these different leagues getting popping up all around, and all of these different leagues are really causing a lot of issues within the cricket circles of different countries. So it is bringing in money, some money into those countries, particularly you could say the smaller countries from a financial standpoint, and it isn't really affecting the Australians and the English and the Indian players, or the Indian and India, for example, because those teams, those countries still have power um, within the space. They can tell tournaments, look here, we are not sending our players, or they're not going to play, they're prioritizing their country. Whereas South Africa hasn't had that power to be able to make those decisions. They've tried with the IPL before, um, and wasn't successful to keep our players for international games and not send them to the IPL. But unfortunately, we don't have that power. And the power still lies with Australia, England, India, etc., and those teams. So, yeah, it's something that we need to deal with at the moment. Now, I'm hoping for a positive outcome when it comes to which players will be available for the Test series against New Zealand next year, because the SA20 is going to affect it some way. Um, because like I said on the previous shows, it doesn't only affect the first team; it also affects if we want to take a second team, even um, a team of the that are next in line to New Zealand. It will affect those players too that we get picked up in the SA20. So it's a really tricky one, to say the least, because it's going to put Coach Shukri in a very difficult position when it comes to that. When it comes to selecting players and finding a team that can go and actually get some WTC points against the previous champions. So it is what it is, and we need to face this problem head on and find a way on how to solve it ultimately. So 20 will be there in 2025. Also, during that time, we face Pakistan in Jan, so it will be create a problem again in the future. And Gaurav, you are right when it comes to that. So please, guys, go watch our previous shows on this. We spoke quite in depth, and a lot of fans made interesting points in the live chat about this particular topic. So please go ahead and go see that shows. We've gone quite in depth with regards to that. Um, but yeah, I still do think that currently the T20 leagues are really starting to um, impact our cricket, particularly international cricket, in a negative way. And I'm hoping that solutions can be found to prevent that from happening, um, because international cricket is still what we love, um, and international cricket is still the number one in most cricket fans' eyes. I'm hoping. So, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I know it's a shorter one today. Not a lot that's happened today for me to really report to you guys. But I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. Let me know in the comment section who you'd like me to chat to and which players you'd want me to bring on for an interview. I'll try my best to contact them and organize those interviews and bring them on the show, or tag me on social media on Twitter or on Instagram. DM me on Instagram to let me, or Cricket Fanatics on Instagram, sorry, to let us know who you'd like us to interview on this channel, where you guys get an opportunity to ask them questions as well in the live chat. Stay safe, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace out, everyone.